Hello and welcome. My name is Sean, also known as ChilliChump, and I absolutely love all things to do with chilies. I love growing them, I love making hot sauces, I love coming up with new hot sauce recipes and making some spicy dishes and sharing all of this sort of stuff with you and more on my YouTube channel. So if you like any of that, make sure you are subscribed down below. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few of my secrets to get a monster chili plant. I've been growing for more than a decade now, and I've learned a lot during that time, and I've tried to put a lot of that to good use to grow my own monster chili plant this year. Now, it's not perfect, my procedure, and there's a few things I already want to change for next year because I am going to be doing this again, but I think you'll agree, this guy over here is a big monster of a plant. I am 6'4" or 1.93 meters tall, and this plant is way above my head, well over 7 foot. I wouldn't say 8 foot just yet. I would say probably about 2.2, 2.3 meters tall. And my goal is to get around 8 feet, which I think will be kind of the ceiling height. If we get lucky with the weather here in the UK over the next few weeks, then I should be able to reach that. We have about a month and a half to 2 months left of the growing season here in the UK. And it's all down to how mild that is and how much sunshine we get. The sun is peeking out at me at the moment, but it's actually been a grey day for the last couple of days, lots of rain, and yeah, the plants love sunshine. So if we have a bit more of it, then yeah, this plant is going to get bigger. Tip number one for growing a monster chili plant, you're going to need a massive pot. Now you might be asking, why not grow directly in the ground, or even why not grow hydroponically? I'm not going to be talking about hydroponics in this video. I do have videos on my channel about hydroponics. If you want to go check those out, go for it. It's a great method to grow, but it's not my preference. And growing directly in the ground, here in the UK, that just wouldn't work. You're not going to get the results you see behind me. And if you do live in a warmer climate, like Mexico or California or wherever else you are, that you have beautiful sunshine all through the year, I pretty much guarantee you, you're not going to get these sort of results planting directly in the ground. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Number one is with a pot, you can control the watering. You can also control the nutrients. So even if you could get that plant to massive sizes, you'd be wasting so much water, you'd be wasting so many nutrients, and this just gives me so much more control. Now, I'll go back to June when I actually potted this up to its final pot size, and we'll talk a little bit about the next tip. Tip number two for growing a monster chili plant, soil mix. Now, my soil mix that I use for my 10 and 12 liter pots, so all these chilies that you see around me, I share that on my channel and I will link to it down in the description. If I forget to, please let me know in the comments below and I'll make sure to fix that for you. But I did use the same recipe for course for my massive chili plants. I just made a few slight amendments, and the biggest changes I made was around how much vermiculite and perlite I'm using. Now the theory there is, number one, you want your roots to spread as quickly as possible, regardless whether you're growing in a 160 liter pot or a 10 liter pot. You want those roots to spread as quickly as you can in the beginning of the season, because the bigger your root system, the quicker it can absorb water, the quicker and more nutrients it can absorb at one time as well. Small root system, it's just not going to be as efficient and it's not going to get this sort of growth. So you want those roots to spread quickly. If the soil inside this massive pot was compacting down and not allowing air gaps inside it, then the roots would not be able to spread as quickly or as easily. So that was number one. Number two is about what happens later in the season. This soil is going to start compacting down regardless. Even with all the stuff that I've added in extra with the vermiculite and the perlite, it's going to compact down, and that means that potentially, if you don't get this right, then the roots at the bottom of the pot, so if we consider the pot there, the roots that are down here could get squashed down and not really able to absorb water or nutrients anymore. And that means that a third of your plant is not doing what it should be doing. So that's kind of the theory. This has compacted down quite a bit. I'd say it's lost about 5 to 10 centimeters off the top of the soil in terms of compacting down. Because you're watering it all the time, it's going to keep pushing down, down, down and settling. And I think it's doing pretty well. We'll see at the end of the season when I do come to taking this plant out of the pot. We'll be able to see what the roots look like right at the bottom, and I will update you in a third episode of this, because remember, this is episode number 2. Let's go to tip number 3. This tip is about watering. You are going to need a lot of water for a plant this size. Do not underestimate just how much you're going to need. With my normal plants, my 10 and 12 liter pots, I go with 10% of the volume of the pot for the amount of water that I give them each time I water. So that's 1 liter of water for those pots. For a 160 liter pot, that means 16 liters of water every single time I water. Now, in summer, on a typical day when the temperatures are average, I'll water once a day. And when we had the heat wave recently, which temperatures were reaching 40 and above, so over 100 Fahrenheit, I was watering twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. That's more than 30 liters of water just for one pot. Do not underestimate just how much water you need. And make sure that you're using water that has the correct pH. Rainwater is perfect. If you are using other water sources, try and get your pH to around about 6.2 to 6.5. And that's because it helps with nutrients. And that is tip number 4, nutrients. You might be thinking, you've got a big old plant like this, we're giving it a lot of water, it's got a massive pot, therefore you're gonna have to feed it a lot of nutrients. Well, actually, you don't really need to feed it as much as you may think. If you get the soil mix right at the beginning of the year, then you have a lot more nutrients available to this plant than you think. In fact, this is one of my poopers, Mr. Chicken, or Mrs. Chicken. If you're using a good quality compost with amendments like chicken manure and vermicompost, fish blood and bone, like the things I suggest in my soil recipe, then you're going to have plenty of nutrients available to your plant throughout the majority of the season. I don't start feeding until probably middle of August because there's not really a need to, and if I feed, I'm probably going to be overfeeding or just wasting those nutrients. Now, I do shift the NPK ratio that I use. In August, I'll be using a higher nitrogen feed and a lower potassium because I want to promote this green growth. I want this plant to be healthy, good stems, good root system, and lovely big green leaves so that it can absorb all the sunlight. I then start shifting towards a lower nitrogen and higher potassium when I want the flowers to start coming through. You want to avoid the flowers and fruit setting for as long as you can because you want the energy of the plant to be focused on getting bigger so that it can support more flowers and fruit. I will share my NPK ratios up on the screen, what I use in the earlier part of the season versus what I use now in September and going on till the end of the life of the plant. The ratio is much higher on the potassium side because that's what is going to help out with the flowers and the fruiting at this stage. If you don't want to mess about creating your own nutrient mix and getting the NPK just right, don't worry, you don't have to. Find yourself a good quality tomato feed. Tomatoes' nutrient requirements are similar to chilies' requirements. They don't need as much potassium, so chilies will need about 30 to 60% more potassium than tomatoes will need. But if you get your soil right in the beginning of the season, when you're potting up to your final pot, then you'll have plenty of nutrients available for the plant to absorb when there is any small deficiencies. Large deficiencies, obviously that's going to be a bit of a problem, but generally the smaller deficiencies, it'll get what it needs from the soil. You're going to need to support your plant. These branches, if they're not supported, they will break. They are getting so heavy with pods at the moment that if they didn't have these supports, so you can see I've got this bamboo, I've got string that's holding things in here. If it was just flowing outwards, then a lot of these branches would actually be broken at this point. So make sure that you're supporting your plant. Do it early on in the season. I will try and find some photos and stick it up on the screen if I can find them to show you what it looked like before the plant was this sort of size. I put the bamboo sticks in and I tied up the string. Number one, it's going to be a lot easier to do it when the plant isn't this big. But number two, you want to start training the plant inwards. Now, I didn't do the best of jobs here, but actually it's not too terrible. We can see that it is containing this quite well. I just hope that it holds out for the rest of the season. Use an Epsom salts foliar spray at least once every 2 weeks. During the high growth season, during the height of summer, use it once every week. And if you neglect it, you're going to have some problems showing up potentially. These sort of problems. This yellowing in between the veins on these leaves is a sign of magnesium or calcium deficiency, but they're both interlinked, and you can't have calcium absorption without magnesium. Now, soil, typically, if you've used a good quality soil, you will have more than enough calcium available to it, and you can't actually fix calcium problems very easily directly. What you can do, however, is make sure that the calcium can be absorbed by ensuring that there is enough magnesium. And Epsom salts is a perfect solution for that, because Epsom salts is a high source of magnesium. So just take a spray nozzle and give your plant a spray once every 2 weeks at this stage, and once every week during the height of growth. These tips should help you grow a monster chili plant. If you are going to try and grow a monster chili plant, please share your results with me. You can get in contact with me on my website or on my various socials, Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing. And I'd love to see the progress of your plant. I've got a friend saying hello. Please leave me alone, chickens. Go and do some pooping so we can feed next year's monster chili plant. Anyway, please share your results if you are going to grow a monster chili plant like I am here. If you are already growing monster chili plants and you're getting even better success than this, please share your secrets down below. I'm sure that my viewers would love to read about what you're doing, and I know I would as well. I'm always looking for new tips and tricks, and I'm going to keep on trying to get an even bigger plant as we go on. I am considering overwintering this plant for next season. I'm still thinking about that. I haven't yet decided, but that could be an interesting thing to do. So I will let you know in the third video, which will be coming out later in the season. I'm surrounded by chickens. They love the sound of my voice for some reason. Anyway, I will be doing one last video at the end of the season, and I will have some special guests at that one. We did competitions on my live streams, and I did a giveaway so that somebody, well, two somebodies could come and join me for picking these chilies. And yeah, it's going to be a fun day. I think we're doing that on the 5th of November. And once we've picked all the chilies and we've had a fun day eating chicken wings and all that, don't worry, not these chickens, we're going to then put that video out and you guys can see how well we've done with this plant, because the ultimate goal here is to see how many pods we can get off a plant like this. It's not necessarily the size of the plant, it's more about how many pods we can get off it. So make sure that you are subscribed so that you can watch that episode and see how we did at the end of the season. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and until then, stay spicy.